watching out for you. This is Newswatch 12 at 6 with Brian Morton, Ashley Hall, and Stormwatch 12 weather with Chief Meteorologist Kate McKenna.
Bullying in the workplace can be so severe, it can result in a PTSD diagnosis. All month long, we're looking into bullying among adults.
Workplace bullying is something we typically call harassment. Newswatch 12's Danielle Craig has more from a victim with that PTSD diagnosis and what power employees have in these situations.
I talked to a lot of people who told me they had been bullied in the workplace, but no one wanted to go on camera. The reason was the same for nearly everyone. They were concerned about their future employment. One person agreed to share an experience not on camera and with a disguised voice to help empower others being bullied in the workplace.
Well, at first it was really subtle, and it was just little jabs and sarcastic remarks.
It was the start of bullying in the workplace.
I started noticing that other people were being laughed at when they weren't around, and that's when I started to get really uncomfortable.
A list of growing concerns.
Then it was private meetings where there were lots of notes taken on my supervisor's end, but they didn't match the notes I was taking.
Until finally, the boiling point.
I was approached angrily, verbally, abusively, and I froze. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't believe that it had reached that level.
This kind of case is familiar for Tom Peterson at the office of Black, Chapman, Peterson and Stevens attorneys.
It's hugely emotional.
He says most bullying cases or harassment cases he's seen are sexual, but not always.
If an employer is just making your job difficult by maybe making you do things that don't make sense or calling you out on things that you haven't done in order to affect your employability there and in the future with maybe another employer, then you may have some right of action. It doesn't have to be sexual.
This bullying victim said just walking into work was nerve-wracking.
After a while, I just kind of got to the point where I would just keep my head down and do my job every day.
But keeping a low profile wasn't enough.
There were mornings where I was physically ill going to work.
Now, long after the harassment, the impact is still there.
I actually have a diagnosis of PTSD after this from my physician.
Primarily, it's an emotional thing, although I've had clients with physical reactions that have required, doctor's visits, some hospitalizations, things of that nature.
There was nothing I could do.
But there are things you can do. Newswatch 12 wants to give you those tools, starting with the definition of bullying. Are you really being bullied? Consider this. How often does this happen? Is the bullying discriminatory, or is it intentional affliction of emotional distress? And finally, remember, even witnesses can be considered victims.
If your gut is telling you these subtle interactions are making me uncomfortable, it will build and build.
That's where the action comes in. The number one thing you can do is write everything down. Next, file a written complaint with Bureau of Labor and Industries.
The Bureau will send out an investigator, and they have the right to talk to employees, talk to the employer, get both sides or maybe many sides, and make discovery for you.
Uncovering the bullying so you can move forward.
If someone is continually insulting you, degrading you, blaming you for things that are happening, those will stick to you.
One expert I talked with said if you are still dealing with workplace bullying after a year, it's time to quit. Coming up next week, we're going to take a look at how women are more often the victims and the bullies, and how one local group is hoping to change that.
In some cases, workplace bullying can become a criminal issue. The district attorney can prosecute those cases depending on the level of proof. A look at the laws in place to protect you in the workplace is available on our website, kdrv.com.